How's it going, everybody? My name is Captain Greenstomp, and on this episode, I'm going to show you the light of the forest. Are you ready? It's right there. I forgot to do this earlier, but I'll just go ahead and insert it now, which you guys are going to see right away. It's not going to be later. But anyway, we're going to start off the video by going through the starter deck itself, what it comes with, and my opinions on all the different cards that come in it. And then we're going to move on to some basic edits to get the deck online, in my opinion, so get it to where it starts being consistent, can get you some wins, some gold to get some more packs, start getting those mythic and rare wild cards so you can get more Galtas, get more Steel Leaf Champions, get the Carnage Tyrants, and I will be also putting timestamps down below so that you can skip throughout the video. And at the very end, after we get the deck online, per se, I'm going to play 3 test games with it and kind of show you in action how it works and some different combos you can pull off and win conditions that you have that you might not think about just looking at the deck list by itself. But anyway, we'll get right back into the video. Enjoy! How's it going, guys? Captain Greenstomp here with another video. This time it's a little different. This is going to be an in-depth guide for creating a mono green deck, starting at a budget level deck, but using the starter green deck that the game actually provides you as a card base for the deck. Because there's a couple things in here that are pretty useful. So you can absolutely start with this deck, make a few small edits to it, start winning a couple games, winning some gold, get yourself some better cards, and eventually just evolve it into whatever you want it to be. But we'll just jump right into it. Starting off, you've got 2 Land of War Elves in the deck. These are a staple, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, in pretty much any kind of green deck, at least mono green. They're more than just a mana producer. You can use things like Titanic Growth and Blanchwood Armor to actually turn them into real contenders on the board. Next up, you've got Druid of the Cowl. Kind of same thing as Land of War Elves, just 1 more cost and 2 more toughness. Pretty good. I prefer Land of War Elves over Druid of the Cowl just because I prefer to be able to drop the Land of War Elves turn 1, get 3 drops turn 2, and you'll see why later on in the video. And then after that, you get Greenwood Sentinel, which 2/2 Vigilance for 2. It's a pretty good card. Usually just for you newer Magic players out there, if it's a good creature or not, usually what determines that, at least from a green perspective, in my opinion, is generally if it costs, say, 2 or 3 mana, it should be a 2/2 or a 3/3, because we play generally really creature and combat focused decks, so we want to be getting as much worth out of all of our creatures as we can. So just off the bat, it's a pretty good creature being a 2/2 for 2. It would be better if it was a 3/3 for 2. I mean, those do exist, but instead of it being a little bigger early, it has Vigilance, so you can attack with it early in the game and still leave it open to block. It's not bad. There's a lot of other things that are just better, and so this will get switched out for better things eventually, but next up we have Highland Game. In my opinion, this one's just kind of a filler. Sure, the gain 2 life is kind of cool when it dies, but there's better cards. I think this one's really just a filler. It's a 2/1 for 2, and when it dies you gain 2 life. It would be a little better if you gain 2 or 3 life when it entered the battlefield, but the creature actually has to die for it to happen, so you either have to block a bigger creature or attack and have them block with a bigger creature. They could do direct damage to it, but given its ability, nobody's probably going to do that unless it's by mistake. And they can just hold off attacking with their creatures until they can get rid of it another way. Maybe they can exile it or something. Or a lot of people just give you the 2 life and kill you through it. So it mostly a filler. This one will get traded out in the first rotation of cards that we bring into this deck. Next up, we have Plummet, which stays in the deck for a little while until you start getting quite a few more rares and stuff in the deck. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of removal with green, so it's one of those things where it's situational, it's only flying, but Plummet is one of our very few ways of dealing with flying, because we don't have very many flying creatures. We've got a handful of creatures with reach, but for killing flyers, we rely on a lot of out-of-the-box things, like Vivian's -3 kills flyers. I'm drawing a blank, but Crawl Harpooner is the other one. When he comes on the battlefield, he gets +X/+0, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and then he deals damage equal to his power to target creature with flying, and he also has reach. So it's not just, oh, we have other creatures with flying that are bigger. So we have to use little more out-of-the-box things to deal with flying. Next up is Rabid Bite. This one's a sort of a pseudo-removal card. It's really good because we play a lot of big creatures, but not a whole lot of ways to remove our opponent's big creatures that are on the board. So if you come up against like Groll or another mono green or something that drops a big bomb creature with 6+ toughness or something, well, we have 6+ or power, excuse me, not toughness. We have 6+ power creatures that can just deal with it for 2 mana with this card. So it stays in for a little while. It's a good card to have in my opinion. Next up, we have Titanic Growth. This one's pretty good, pretty versatile. It stays in not quite as long as like Rabid Bite or Plummet, but it is definitely, I wouldn't say it's a filler card. It actually does have quite a few good uses. Verdant Rebirth is up next. Sort of situational, a little too situational in my opinion. It can be useful for the card draw. I kick it out of the deck fairly early on, but if you guys like it and find that you get a lot of use out of it, then by all means keep it in the deck. I know some people definitely like it. I'm just not one of those people. Next up is Centaur Courser. It's a 3/3 for 3. It's not bad by any means. It's not great. It'll get kicked out once we start getting some better uncommons, rares, mythics, that sort of thing. Up next is Elvish Rejuvenator. Another filler, in my opinion. The ramp on it is okay, but one of the very first cards we're going to be adding into the deck, Adventurous Impulse, is, in my opinion, just a much better version of this card. Sure, this one does give you the body, which some will argue is better, but at the same time, Adventurous Impulse gives you the option to pull a creature or a land, not just a land. So, in my opinion, it's just a filler card. They just kind of needed something. And it's a 3-cost card for a 1/1, so not really worth the ramp in my opinion, but take it how you will. Next up is Blanchwood Armor. In my opinion, this is a pretty great card, especially for budget decks. I run one single copy of it in my deck right now that I'm running in gold. Hopefully going to be getting into platinum here soon. The effectiveness of running this in a mono green deck is super awesome. It can be effective early game when you've only got the 3 mana to play it. That's still +3/+3 for a creature. That can still turn your Llanowar Elves into a 4/4 blocker if you need to. It can turn your Greenwood Sentinel into a 5/5 Vigilance, equivalent to Vigilant Baloth. So it can come in fairly clutch in a lot of situations. You can also draw it late when you've got 7 or 8 land on the board, and all of a sudden your Gigantosaurus is a 17/17. But I like this card a lot. I think a lot of other people have a pretty good opinion of it. But next up is Bristling Boar. This one's pretty good for, I don't know, it's a little bit situational because there's a fair amount of decks right now, for example, mono white and mono red, that just have a lot of creatures on the board, and so in that case this ability almost doesn't matter because they have so many 1/1 chump blockers that unless you get trample on this thing and get it beefed up, it's almost not going to matter at all. So But if you don't come up against one of those decks, if the deck is running 3 or 4 creatures and 2 of those are really important, then this card can come in really handy, making them choose whether or not they want to have the extra utility on the board, or they want to not take face damage against an aggro green deck. So this one stays in for a little while. Vigilant Baloth, another not quite filler, but I think it was just they already give you a couple of rares and stuff. They couldn't really get away with giving us another big creature like that. So this is sort of your arguably mid-range, sort of bigger creature, beginning of the bombs, I guess. 5/5 Vigilance for 5, same thing as the Greenwood Sentinel. It's good because it's 5 cost for 5 power and toughness. On top of that, it has an extra ability, which is Vigilance, so I mean, it's a good card. It stays in until we can start getting the rares and mythic rare bombs, because it's a great target for Blanchwood Armor, it's a great target for Titanic Growth. We'll be adding another enchantment that gives Trample here soon. It's a good target for that. So it'll stay in for until we start using more rare and mythic rare wild cards. Next up is Gigantosaurus. They give us 1 copy of that. I sort of have mixed feelings about this card. It's not good for what you think it is. You're not always going to be able to use it as this big 17/17 and maybe give it trample and have it just crash through and win you the game. A fair amount of times you'll get it out fairly early, earlier than your opponent is expecting usually, and they'll end up just using a removal card on it, which I usually take that as just, I'll pretty much only use this card as bait then. So if I don't have anything else in my hand, then I'll play it and try to run with this on the field, using it to clear other cards if they don't have any removal. This card's pretty good into mono red, because it's pretty hard for them to get off the table. But if I have another option, say like I have even like the Aggressive Mammoth, or probably even the Vigilant Baloth in my hand, or maybe even the Bristling Boar if I have a chance to buff it up with some other stuff and get it into a big creature. I'll usually play this first to bait out their answers, and then I'll play the card that I actually want to play after Gigantosaurus, so that I have a better chance of them not having an answer for it. But I just got rid of... I was running 3 copies of this, and like I said, I have mixed feelings about it. It worked sometimes, it didn't work other times. It was fairly inconsistent, but when it works, it works pretty well, so it was hard to get rid of it. But I did end up getting rid of it for more copies of Galta and Carnage Tyrant, which are going to be some of the bombs that we add later on when we have the wild cards for it. But after that, we have Aggressive Mammoth, which trample. Other creatures you control have trample. This one, I don't know, I also just took this one out to make room for some better stuff. So it did just come out of my deck recently, so it did stay in for a long time. But I felt like it was a little bit overdue that I took it out, because I didn't feel like I was getting as much out of it as I wanted. The other creatures you control have trample seems pretty cool, but once you get all those other bombs that we want, like the Carnage Tyrant and the Galtas and stuff, they already have trample, and we're just, with this deck, mostly we're just trying to get those out as fast as possible and as many of those out as possible. So wasting time to put this out to give your smaller creatures trample just wasn't worth it to me most of the times. I found this just kind of sitting in my hand a lot of times, especially when I drew other bombs. But it is nice when you don't have anything else. It is an 8/8 trample for 6, if nothing else, if you just kind of ignore that second ability. So it is still a good card just based off that. But I don't know, I think this one's, I would say, is more of a personal choice. If you find that you're getting good use out of it and you don't necessarily need the second ability, or you find that some other personal choices you've made make that second ability really useful, like you happen to decide, well, I'm just going to try 4 Gigantosauruses, and you end up getting 2 or 3 of them out at once, then this card's going to be awesome, of course. But I'd leave it at personal choice. Leave it in for as long as you want, take it out as early as you can or want to. Next up we have Prodigious Growth. This one is sort of similar to Aggressive Mammoth, Later on, we can turn one of our Llanowar Elves or a Druid of the Cowls that we don't really need for the mana anymore into another big contender on the board. So it's kind of cool for that aspect. Or you can just, if they don't really seem to have a whole lot of answers, you can sort of put all your eggs in one basket and drop it on your Galta or something, or your Gigantosaurus, but generally that's not a good idea, because if they do draw another removal, then you lose 2 of your big contenders basically in one shot. So personal choice, see how much use you get out of it. If you don't find that you like it too much, then get rid of it for another card. Next up is Meteor Golem, and this one, like I said, we don't have a whole lot of answers for removal, so I think they probably just stuck this one in as kind of, well, they don't have removal, we'll kind of throw them a bone, sorta. I don't know, it's okay. It's a lot of mana. It's 7. It means you can really only remove something later on in the game with it. You're not going to be able to get rid of things early on, like blockers that can contest your early bigger creatures, like your Centaur Courser or your Bristling Boar. So it's not quite as good as we would want it to be for having a removal card, but we don't have a lot of options. So I would leave it in until you find that it's not really useful anymore for you. I took it out almost immediately just because I don't like seeing something that's not green. But leave it in for as long as you guys see fit. Next up is Galta Primal Hunger. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about this card. A lot of mono green decks run this card. I'm pretty sure even some Gruul builds run this card. But it's just a great card. I mean, the earliest I've got it out is, I think, turn 4. And that was, I mean, it's usually met with a concede. Either they have an answer for it, or they don't, and they just give up. So, I currently have either 3 or 4 copies in my deck, I don't remember, but I would spend early rare wild cards on more copies of this for sure. He's a win condition for sure, I would say. After that, it gives you 25 forests, and that's the entire starter deck. But now, I know that was kind of long and a little bit boring. If you skipped ahead to the actual part of the video, I guess you could say, we're going to actually start editing the deck now. And so the first thing I recommend doing is taking out these 3 Highland games. They're just, I don't like them. If you like them, then go ahead, and I would recommend taking out the Elvish Rejuvenators. But we are actually going to take out both of those as well, and then 1 forest. And we are going to add in 4 copies of a common called Adventurous Impulse. You get to reveal the top 3, choose a land or creature card from it, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library. It's a great ramp card, in my opinion. I traded this out pretty early on, and I just haven't looked back, honestly. So we'll run 4 copies of that, and then we're going to add 2 more copies of Llanowar Elves. That should give us a really good base for ramp. That's 8 out of 60 cards that give us a plus on mana. So we have a pretty good chance of drawing at least one of those in our opening hands, which we want 100%. We want at least one of these 3 cards in our opening hand 100% of the time. If you don't have one of these 3, unless you really think you can pull it out with what you have, I would just mulligan. So there's our ramp base. And then after that, we want to move on to getting a little bit better stuff on the board. And so to do that, we are going to drop the Centaur Coursers. I prefer the Greenwood Sentinel over them. They are a little bit less in power and toughness just by 1, but they have the Vigilance, which in my opinion is a little bit better to be able to attack and block. But we are going to take out 3 of the Centaur Coursers, and we are going to add 3 copies of Talons of the Wildwood. This one is an enchantment. It's the one I was talking about earlier, if you were watching that part of the video, that gives trample. This is a great one for Gigantosaurus. It's useful on Bristling Boar. It's useful on. It can be useful even on Greenwood Sentinel. You can put it on any of your creatures that doesn't have trample. Basically, it's good on Vigilant Baloth. It's just good. I would recommend adding it on pretty early. Still at 60 cards there. After that, by the way, sorry, that is where'd it go? That is common as well, if I didn't say that already. And then after that, we are going to add Thrashing Brontonodon. So this one is, I believe, the first uncommon we're going to be adding. It's good because it's a good blocker. First of all, it's a 3/4 for 3. You can pay 1 and sacrifice it to get rid of an artifact or enchantment. Pretty common things right now are like Ixalan's. No, I don't think Ixalan Binding is one of them, but that have the same effect as that card, where a card or permanent is removed from the battlefield or exiled until that enchantment is removed from the battlefield as well. So this one is an easy way to get rid of those. So like, for example, you'll drop your Gigantosaurus on turn 4 or whatever, and then they'll remove it with one of those enchantments that cost 3 or 4, and then you'll respond, hopefully, with one of these to get your Gigantosaurus back. But it's fairly situational, but I think it's worth it, just because it's a way to stop some of the removal that's fairly prevalent in the meta right now. But we are going to go ahead and add 2 copies of that, and in order to make room for that, we are going to get rid of the Verdant Rebirth, and then we are also going to get rid of Meteor Golem. After that, we are going to go ahead and use our first 2 rare wild cards, which are going to go to your choice of one of 2 creatures. Either Steel Leaf Champion, which is my personal favorite. This is, in my opinion, one of the best 3-drops in the game. A lot of 3-drops and even some 4-drops and stuff are power 2 or less, so they're not going to be able to block this, and you're just going to repeatedly get 5 damage to the face until they come up with a way to remove it, which is 1 less removal card that they can use on your Galta, your Gigantosaurus, your Baloths, etc. The other option is Vinemare. There's no space, I think. There we go. Vinemare. It's 5/3, but it has hexproof and it can't be blocked by black creatures. It's also 1 more cost. The hexproof is super useful against removal. Excuse me. It means basically they can only remove it with other creatures or things that don't target. So like destroy all creatures or something. It's a lot harder to get rid of than normal 4-drops or 3-drops. So it tends to stick around for a while and get a lot of damage off, or at least keep them from attacking you with some of their slightly larger creatures. I personally... Oh, sorry, this one's an uncommon. For some reason I thought it was a rare. So then I would say add that one basically as soon as you can. And in order to make room for it, we're actually going to get rid of 2 of the Bristling Boars. In my opinion, it's just a better 4-drop, and we don't want to affect the curve too much. We want to keep the curve fairly low so we can get our ramp and stuff out. We can have our Rabid Bites on hand, our Talons of Wildwood on hand, and just wait till we draw up a bomb or 2, get those on the board, and that's how you're usually going to be winning when you're in like the lower ranks, when you're starting out with the game, right after you got this deck, maybe bought some packs, have some wild cards, you're not sure what to use them on. This is where I would start. So we're going to go ahead and, to make room for the Steel Leaf Champion, we're going to get rid of the Greenwood Sentinels and actually 1 forest. I run my deck with 23 forests, and I don't usually run into mana problems too much. It stays consistent. So go ahead and get our Steel Leaf Champion, if I know how to type. And then I guess if you don't want to add that one, you could get, with your rare wild cards, I would suggest either getting 2 Galtas or 2 of the Steel Leaf Champion, which I just added. I like the Steel Leaf Champion a little bit better because you can usually get them out pretty early, and if they don't have answers, sometimes that'll end up in a concede. But at the same time, Galta ends up in a concede a fair amount too, so that's kind of a personal choice. Maybe if you want, you could maybe do 1 of each. That way we have 2 copies of Galta and 1 of Steel Leaf Champion. But I just really like this card, so I run 2 copies of it and just keep with the 1 Galta. That actually puts us at 59 cards, so we can, let's see, not sure what to add back in. I will leave that up to you guys, but I'm going to add in, that's up to how many wild cards you have, what you have in your collection. You could run a 4th copy of Talons of the Wildwood, a 4th Rabid Bite. You could run another Thrashing Brontonodon maybe, but I am going to run another Vine Mare. I'll put that 4th one in. We're at 60 out of 60. This is sort of, we'll call this the first stage of the budget deck. This will be the complete list. Actually, you know what? Instead of Vine Mare, I think I'm going to run another Blanchwood, just for a little bit more consistency with that, because when you're lower down on the, when you're running like budget decks like this, Blanchwood is sort of shines above some of the other cards in here. It just, you can put it on almost any of the creatures in the deck and make that creature a contender on the battlefield, especially late game. So, and I mean, like this, the minimum you can give it is technically +2/+2, or I guess really +1/+1 if you only had 1 forest out and you had 2 Llanowar Elves out or something, but most of the time you're going to have it out for giving it +3/+3 when you play it early on. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into a game and show you how it works a little bit. Alright, what do we got first? Nephis. It's a pretty cool name, actually. Let me know in the comments down below what choices you made for this deck list, how you guys are doing with it. If you guys are tuning out after this and you want to just go ahead and test it yourself, have a good one, and thanks for tuning in. For those of you that are sticking around, we are not going to keep this hand, because like I said, it doesn't have that one of those 8 ramp cards that we want, so we're just going to mulligan. This time we get, interesting, 2 of the Adventurous Impulse and 3 Forest. It looks a little awkward, but it's actually a decent hand in my opinion. We've got the 3. We can do the Adventurous Impulse twice. We can hopefully get a good lower cost creature out of that, maybe one of our Steel Leaf champions, and if not, we can get more land so that we can get this Vigilant Baloth off. But we'll go ahead and keep that one. The Titanic Growth, we don't really have any interest in that, just because we're more looking for creatures right now, so we'll skip that one. We'll say hello, and we'll drop a forest. We are not going to Adventurous Impulse yet, because if we do drop a creature, we want to give them as little time to plan for it as possible. So we'll just go ahead and end the turn there. And even if we didn't see a creature we liked and wanted to get a land, there's no reason to have it so early if we have 3 lands. So at this point, we'll go ahead and Adventurous Impulse, just in case we get a Llanowar Elves, because that is a 1 cost. And we don't, however, we do have the choice between Galta or Vigilant Baloth. I'm going to go ahead and risk the Galta and hope that if they have some removal or some answers for creatures, that they oversave it and hold on to it too long expecting this, and I can just have other creatures essentially for free. We'll pass after that and leave the 1 mana open. We don't really need to do the other Adventurous Impulse yet. We get another forest, so it looks like we're probably going to have enough for the Vigilant Baloth here soon. Looks like we're coming up against Boros, maybe Boros Angels. But we'll go ahead and do the Adventurous Impulse, see what it gives us. Gives us that last land that we need. That's the second time we saw the Talons of the Wildwood in there. But we're just kind of waiting. We don't really want the deck to be this slow, but we didn't really want to mulligan again and get no ramp cards in our opening hand again, so I would rather take the hand that we got than no ramp at all, essentially. And we'll go ahead and drop our 4th forest. We're obviously not going to Blanchwood Armor his creature. And then next turn we'll be able to drop the Vigilant Baloth. And then the turn after that we're probably going to go ahead and drop, let's see, -5. We won't have enough for Galta quite after that. Let's do, okay. Do that. And then, that's handy. So we will just Blanchwood Armor the Vigilant Baloth the turn after this one, but we'll just drop this, make him think about attacking us a little bit. It's actually running, what color? I forget the name for that combo. Is that Naya, I feel like? I'm not sure. But that was back when I first started playing, like 11 years ago, 12 years ago. That was my favorite color combination, was green, red, white. Back when my dad bought me my very first packs. Thunderherd Migration, that's a good one. Looks like he's just playing dinosaurs, I guess. Nice. I like dinosaurs a lot. Nice. There we go. It's gonna get a little bigger. Now he's gonna see if I want to trade. Honestly, I don't really right now, because then I don't have a target for my Blanchwood Armor and stuff. So we'll go ahead and drop the Llanowar Elves, and then the Blanchwood Armor on the Vigilant Baloth. And then we'll swing, because he's an 11/11, so even if he blocks with all 3 creatures, we can kill all 3 creatures, and they won't kill him. So on to combat, and even if he does pull something out with the no mana that he can use, we have enough left over for the Titanic Growth. So we'll swing with him, see what he does in response. He's probably just going to block. Not sure who he's going to block with, because all of these are pretty useful for him right now. We'll see. Maybe he'll just take 11 face damage. I doubt it, but maybe. Yeah. So we'll just let him kill it. There's no reason to Titanic Growth because I don't have any tramples, so no damage is going to go to face anyway. And we'll resolve that. Don't want to respond to it for any reason. Okay, and we'll, oh, I'm an idiot. I could have Galta'd. I forgot to do that little bit of extra math there. Oh well. But next turn we can Galta. Nice. That's useful for him. So now I'm pretty much going to have to get trampled because I don't have any other way of getting rid of that. I'm going to have to just do trample damage through it. We'll just resolve all. He gets another one. Polyraptor's a pretty good card. I have one copy, and I was thinking about putting it in this deck, but I haven't done it yet. I feel like the 8 mana without the cards to reduce its cost just isn't quite enough. Sorry, I'm totally slow playing this guy like a jerk. Sorry, man, I'm making a YouTube video. Resolve all. So next turn we're gonna Galta, see what he has to say about that. Just resolve. Resolve all. A whole bunch of Polyraptors. That's pretty cool, actually. And we'll pass to the end of combat. My turn. And we're gonna Galta and Brontonodon, and unfortunately that won't leave us enough for Titanic Growth, but we shouldn't need it because he doesn't have any way to buff his creatures or anything. And we have no reason to use that, so we'll just go to combat, and we're not going to attack because I'm pretty sure he might still have lethal anyway, because yeah, there's 7 there, so he's got lethal anyway. It's a good game, but hopefully that helped you learn a little bit. I think we're going to do one more after this one. Jeez. That's nuts. Good lord. Well, and a whole bunch of damage. We will block that one. Oh, whoops. Let's block that one there, and that one there, and that one there. And still has plenty of damage to kill me. Bang, 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 bang. Didn't feel like 6. Well. Alright. On to the next one. Alright, what do we got next? Kiwi? Interesting. Alright, we got 2 of our ramps this time. This is actually a pretty good opening hand. We've got the mana to play our Vine Mare. We can Blanchwood Armor the Vine Mare. So it's going to be pretty big. Hopefully we'll be up against black, but with the Ajani avatar, I feel like probably not. So we'll go ahead and keep it. And turn 1, we're going to drop the Forest and the Llanowar. Nice, we got a Steel Leaf Champion too. That's going to be super helpful. Interesting red. Maybe another Boros deck. Maybe another Dinosaur deck. Maybe tonight's the night of the dinosaurs, who knows. Oh, another red. Maybe mono red burn? Red burn, if they get a good enough opening hand and can stall you out early for long enough, then they can beat you, but generally speaking, mono red burn isn't too great into mono green aggro. Just because we can get bigger creatures out than they can burn faster than they can produce the burn. So, if all goes well, that is. So we're going to go ahead and Steel Leaf Champion on turn 2, because we've got the 3 mana thanks to Llanowar Elves. And we'll see what he's got to respond to that with. Hopefully nothing, and we just get 5 damage to the face next turn. Maybe he'll shock this or something. Oh, nice. It's a good one. Can't block with it, but... And I doubt... Yeah, I was going to say, I doubt he's going to attack with it. So we'll drop our 3rd Forest. And then we're actually going to go ahead and Blanchwood Armor the Steel Leaf Champion, since we just drew another one. We are actually going to be able to Blanchwood both of these. Or if we really wanted to, we could maybe Blanchwood both if he ends up not having enough answers. But we'll go ahead and just swing for the 8 for now. And see what he's got to do on his turn. Hello? I think next turn we're going to drop this Forest. That'll give us the Vine Mare. I'll just let him have it. Because now he's going to be able to block this, but it's way bigger than him, so he probably end up won't. And he won't block it this turn, but he'll be able to block it. Like, he'll have 3 power, so. Or is that only... Yeah, no, that's whenever you sacrifice one, so. Oh, okay. Should have done that before he attacked? Oh well. It draws a card that might pay 2. If it doesn't, you create a... Huh, interesting. How does that put us for mana? So if we pay 2, we only have 3. We could drop another Blanchwood on him. And that would be... Yeah, that's lethal. Okay, so we'll pay. And then we'll drop this. We'll drop the 2nd Blanchwood Armor on him. Good game. Attack there. So yeah, as you can see, Steel Leaf can get super nuts, especially when you can buff him up like that. And he's pseudo-unblockable, sorta, early in the game. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. We'll go ahead and do one more, make it a best of 3. Hopefully we can win 2 out of 3. Here we go. Alright, what do we got this time? We got one of our ramps, but I think we'll roll with it. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and roll with it. So turn 1, we're actually gonna use the Adventurous Impulse. Just so hopefully we can get, well, we'll take the Thrashing Brontonodon, just because we kind of need that early creature, especially if he has something that can attack early, if he's maybe playing another aggro deck. Alright. Oh, and a Blanchwood armor. That'll be helpful. Turn 2, we can't really drop anything. So, back to him. And let's see. Blue-red, nice. Maybe a Wizard's deck, looks like. Usually, if we didn't get a super fast early hand, so this might not go in our favor. However, maybe he didn't get the best opening hand, so we'll see. Generally speaking, against like these kind of more control-y, like burn blue-red, like Wizards and Izzet decks and stuff like that, it's if you have a good fast opening hand, generally you can win before they can really build up and do anything effective. But if you don't get a very fast early hand, then it's a little bit harder of a situation. You have to really kind of plan for their removals and stuff like that, and bait out cards with other cards that you can deal with not having. But we'll see. We'll see what he has. Hopefully we can get going here pretty quick and get off some good damage. Dang. And let's hopefully we can draw another creature. Not quite. And we still got to run off the green mana. Probably shouldn't have kept this hand, it looks like. It's alright, we can learn from that though, hopefully. Hopefully he doesn't have anything too spectacular this turn and we can draw something good. Take a shock to the face. That's one less Llanowar Elf dead. From shock, at least. Another Scry. Keeping some red mana open for burn, most likely. Unless he plays a creature. Okay. That's not a bad one by any means. That damage can add up fairly quickly. We'll just pass turn. We're not going to want to drop this. And, well, there's a Llanowar Elves. That's definitely better than nothing. And if he's got a burn or something, we can respond with a Titanic Growth. So we will pass turn and just wait for him to burn it. Feels like it always... Yep, there it is. So I'll play the Titanic Growth on him. Can't burn it. And of course we'll take the 1 damage from Electrostatic Field. What's next, buddy? Gonna draw a card, do another damage. I like Jumpstart. It's a really cool mechanic, in my opinion. What you got, buddy? Alright. Looks like he's just trying to burn us down from face before we can get him down. It's not a bad plan, honestly. He's got 2 mana left open. He might Lightning Strike us, honestly. We'll see. Nope, he's gonna go ahead and Radical Idea. What's he discard? Discarded a Highland Lake, okay. Yeah, he's pretty good on these. Are pretty low cost decks, so he's pretty good for that. We get up to our 4 mana. That will give us our, well, technically 5 with Llanowar. Gives us our Vigilant Baloth. And then next turn we'll be able to put the Blanchwood armor on it, and we'll still have mana left over for Titanic Growth just in case something happens. And yep, he's just gonna try and keep burning us down. Hopefully we can win the race, but it's not looking too good right now. Maybe we can keep drawing into more mana and get this Prodigious Growth out. That might be the win condition here. In fact, I think it is pretty much one of the only win conditions here, except maybe Galta. We'll see what the deck gives us. We've got the good luck doggo, so we'll see. I don't know if you guys can hear him snoring over there, but Adventurous Impulse, not quite what we wanted, but we can. Generally speaking, you want to adventure. I almost made a mistake there. You want an Adventurous Impulse before anything else on your turn if you plan on doing it, just in case it brings you something else that you can play that's going to be more efficient. We want that land because, like I said, I think Prodigious Growth is our win condition right now. So we'll go ahead and play that. That actually lets us play Blanchwood Armor and still have mana left over for Titanic Growth. So if he for some reason lets this damage through, we'll go ahead and throw Titanic Growth on there. But next on to combat, Next to attackers, we're going to attack with him. And he'll probably block with that. Yeah. Alright, we'll take it though. On to damage, no reason to Titanic Growth there. And end our turn. We'll see, 10 damage is absolutely doable with 6 mana, so fingers crossed. Hopefully he doesn't have the damage to kill us this turn. Because then if we draw... Dang. I think we're going to go ahead and use the Titanic Growth here. Make him use some more burn that would potentially, hopefully, go to our face to get rid of the Llanowar Elf. Nope, he's just gonna cast. We can Prodigious Growth, or we can Galta. I think we just go ahead and Galta here. And concede. There it is, boys. Like I said. And girls, sorry. And then everything in between. Galta is often met with a concede. So there it is, 1, 2 out of the 3. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you didn't, I'm sorry. Hopefully the next one will be better. Let me know what I can do better. Go ahead and smash that like button, the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. And have a good one.